Hi, welcome to Off Grid and Off Road. I'm Darcie. Richie's usually in the workshop or the garage, and I have my friends that ask me, what do you do while Richie's, in the garage or the workshop making videos? Well, I'm usually in the kitchen cooking, baking. I'm our meal prep. I also do all the shopping, and understandably we are kind of a traditional couple, whereas I'm in the kitchen most days or the greenhouse, out in the yard helping him, and he's out working in the workshop making alterations to his Ford Ranger. But thank you for joining me. I'm just going to make a short video of some of the things that I like to do, and one of the things I do like to do is make bread. So let's get started. I'll show you what we need, okay? We're going to need some flour, and sometimes they ask for a bread flour. All I have is high altitude Hungarian all-purpose flour. I use just a little bit of sugar, some cornmeal. I like the kosher salt, garlic powder, granulated onion. I have a few tools out that I'm going to need, and I'm going to make, this is an artisan bread. It's pretty simple. I thought I'd share that with you because it is so simple. And it's onion, garlic, or onion chive. So I use a whole clove of garlic and some dried chive that I had harvested some of the chive in the greenhouse, and I dried it out on the counter. And when it was dry, I put it in this jar so that I could use it for soup or bread making or whatever. It's great to have dehydrated stuff from the greenhouse when you need it. Anyway, let me see what I need. So probably about 3 1/4 cup of my flour. Just so you know, I'm not usually the one on the camera because I like to be behind the camera. I took photography when I was in high school, and I had a great time. I really like photography. I also went to Barbizon Modeling School, which, well, I learned a lot. I'd say that any learning is not bad. So there's 2 cups. I'm also a certified draftsman. I went to drafting and ROP class when I was in high school, and I took architecture when I was in college. So there's that. So I'm going to probably take just 1/4 cup out and leave it with, so that I have it, because I have to work with some on the surface later. So I'll just have a little bit of flour in my cup for later, and I might need the 1/4 cup. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in there. If you see this thing on my finger, I just got to tell you, I cut myself really bad this morning after I sharpened my knife. I sharpened the knife, and I don't usually use a paring knife, but I was cutting up some banana peel to put in the little compost bin that we have. And lo and behold, I cut myself really good. Richie had to help me with the bandage. And yeah, so here we are. I have washed everything, my hands are clean, everything is clean, but I had to protect it because it was bleeding pretty bad, and even though there's 2 bandages on there, it was bleeding through, so figures, right? Typical day with Darcie, cutting herself, practically passing out. Right, so there's my flour, and I don't know if you noticed these are Tupperware that I've had for years. It's like my cookbook that I've had since 1982. I've had these about the same length of time, and they work great. I put them in my cabinet, and I still have them. This one's for my sugar. So sugar, I'm only putting in about a teaspoon. You don't need a lot, but because I'm putting some bitter items in there, I thought I'd sweeten it up a little bit, and it just makes that so much better. So a teaspoon of that, and this will make 2 loaves. So there's my flour and my sugar. Let me get those out of the way. Gives me more space to work with. So sometimes it's a 1/2 teaspoon of the of the onion and garlic, but I like a lot of flavor, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a whole teaspoon in there. Yeah. There's the onion. When I'm done with stuff, I like to clean as I go. So when I'm done with things, I kind of put them aside on my island counter so it's out of my way. This is the garlic powder. Again, this is super simple. I hope you can see that, how simple it is. Ow. If you feel that that's not enough, by all means, put some more in. Now, the recipe that I was following, it's a really good one. It's an artisan recipe that I found online. I just made a few alterations because I live at 7,800 feet elevation, 7,848. The active dry yeast is all that I have. I don't have the rapid rise yeast. And it said on the recipe to use 2 teaspoons, but this is 2 1/4 teaspoons. So just so you're aware that we're not going to make any, I'm not going to just keep a 1/4 teaspoon or throw it away. That's not me. So there it goes. All of it goes in there. Yeah, buddy. And then the kosher salt. It's a textural thing, and it's salt is a flavor enhancer. So we're just going to go ahead and put more of a level. There you go. Just going to get these out of the way. This is the fun part. I'm going to take my clove, mash it, take the peeling off if I can. There we go. I'm going to put it right in there. Sometimes I'll cut it. Trust me, this is really good. The hard part about the making of bread is waiting for it to rise or rest or proof. So I'm going to squeeze that right into the mix here. It's a big clove. I'm going to move it around in there. Get everything out of there that I can. See, got a little more out of there. Usually you'll be seeing videos of Richie altering his Ford Ranger, which is really cool. I love going for a buy-in with him. It's a lot of fun, really is. But once in a while I fall on my butt and hurt myself. Or something. I still have a bruise from 2 weeks ago. So you're going to need a silicone. I like to use the silicone spatula with my ceramic bowl because it's just it doesn't stick as much as the metal bowl. I don't know why, but anyway. So we've got that going on. Just going to mix everything really good. And then we're going to get some water. I believe the water content is going to be about a 1.5 cups. It doesn't have to be warm, it doesn't have to be hot. It just needs to be about a 1.5 cups. Air temperature is probably best. That way it doesn't have to cool down or anything. So we haven't oiled this pan, or this bowl rather. It doesn't have to be oiled. I wouldn't, because you don't want to interfere with the science of rising bread and such. So I'm kind of making a little divot in the middle. We're on a well, but we have filtration system for the house, and we're also on a water softener, which adds a little bit more salt to the water, just so you're aware. I'm going to get some water. Make sure it's level. And I'm just going to pour that right in there. Who cares? Making bread, don't care. Kind of mixing it so that that gets incorporated, the water. And if you feel you need a little bit more water, that's fine. If you feel you need a little more flour, that's fine too. It's going to be a little bit of a sticky dough. I like to keep my area clean, but trust me, you're not going to need more than this amount of water. It looks all dry and clumpy and weird looking, but eventually it gets itself put together. I heard a squeak. So I have a cat. It was my mom's cat. When she passed away, we adopted him. He is, we believe, part Maine Coon. And he's huge. He got up to 26 pounds. I had to put him on a diet. And the vet said to me, well, the average Maine Coon weighs about 30 pounds. Why'd you put him on a diet? I said, well, he couldn't reach his butt. And when you can't reach your butt, you got to go on a diet. Right, Haji? His name is Haji Baba. Haji Baba. Okay, so I've kind of incorporated this the best I can. It's a little sticky still. So you kind of just try to make a little ball in the middle here. And we're just going to put that all in there. No oil or nothing. Try to make it into a ball. And you cover it for like 2 to 3 hours. With plastic. Oh. I'm going to wrap it pretty good. I'm literally just going to put it over there on the counter, cover it up with a towel, set the timer for 3 hours. Because we're at a high elevation, I think it takes us a little bit longer than, closer to sea level to rise, and you got to take special care to measure things properly, and like leavening. If you're going to put baking soda or baking powder, if it's a teaspoon, you got to take about 1/8 of a teaspoon out for each teaspoon that you put in for your breads and such. I don't know why. It's the science. Okay, so I'm going to put on a timer for 3 hours, and then we'll get back to it, okay? So this is Haji Baba. He's really old now. He's 18 years old. But what a sweetheart, huh? You can barely squeak a meow out. I love you, buddy. So it's been about 3 hours, but you want it to be nice and full. You can see that. It's at least doubled in size. You can see those nice chives just incorporated into that bread. I'm going to save this plastic because I'm going to need that. But how delicious does that look? Smells amazing. I'm going to take the flour that I had left in the cup, and I'm going to put it on here. Of course, I've washed my hands. Everything is clean. Just making sure that we have enough space I like to put a little flour on my utensils to hope that the dough doesn't stick. It will anyway, but that's fine. So I have my little scraper thingy. You don't want to mess with the dough too much on this one. You want to try to leave those bubbles in there because that's what makes it almost like a sourdough bread. See if I can do this gracefully and with the camera looking. Kind of scraping it out. I don't know if you can see on that camera, but kind of putting some flour on my spatula as I move along, trying to get that out of there. Come on, bread. You can do it. Yeah, you don't want to disturb it too much because it might deflate. So I'm going to take a little flour in my hands, just lightly press onto the surface here. What I'm going to try to do is cut it in half to make the two loaves gently, and it's all like sticking. I might need this. I'm going to go ahead and take a cookie sheet, put my parchment paper on there, take my Aunt Jemima's yellow cornmeal, isn't that cute? Spread that out on my cookie sheet with the parchment paper. What I'm going to establish here is two loaves. I'm gently going to try to roll this one over and get it onto the cookie sheet. I'm making two little oblong, oval-shaped loaves here. I want to take some of this cornmeal and put it on top because that's me. I like a little extra crunch, and it helps it to not stick on the plastic because I have to let this rest for another 45 minutes. There's a lot of resting and rising. That's what we do. We rest, we rise, we wait, we ride. There. So I'm just going to let that rest for a little while. It says to rest, but I like to cover it with a little bit of plastic. And if you don't want your plastic to stick, then you kind of got to put some of that cornmeal in there, and it gives it a really nice crunch. So in the meantime, there's that plastic that I let go of. It's going to kind of sweat. That's what it does. So. Put that right on top of this little lovely. And this one on the other. There we go. While those are rising or resting, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the oven at 475. I know, it sounds hot, right? 475. But when these rest for 45 minutes, then we're going to cook them from about 20 to 25 minutes. Here at the higher elevation, it's about 22 or 23 minutes. So I'm just going to get that out of the way. Let that rest. Let me turn on the oven, okay? Well, it's been about 45 minutes since I let this rest. Sometimes it gets stuck to the plastic, so I use my handy dandy spatula. Dust it a little bit. You want to put that on your hands. This is going to be the pan that you cook it in, so you don't want to mess it up. Sometimes I have to take the, can you see it? Sometimes it gets stuck. I don't want to disturb the loaf too much, so I'm just trying to get it off of there without damaging it too much. Eek. Ark. There we go. Whoa. I'm going to be throwing that away, of course, but now that we're rested, some of the cornmeal is going to fall off in the cooking process, and that's okay. So I'm going to put a little bit of flour on my hands, make sure my hands were clean again. I kind of want to fluff them up a little bit so they don't stick to my hands. Fluff them up a little bit. They're looking good. They'll fluff a lot in the oven. You'd be surprised how fluffy they get. I'm going to take one of my sharp knives off the wall over here, and I'm going to put a little flour on there, make sure it doesn't stick. I'm going to just do 3 diagonal like cuts. For the release. Sit, stay. Okay. Without getting too much on the camera, can you see how I put the little slices on the top and diagonal? I'm going to put these in the oven, kind of center rack and a little higher than that. And they're going to cook for 20 to 25 minutes. And this is parchment paper is literally going to turn brownish and crispy, but that's okay. The bread's going to be beautiful. Ooh, I should show you. Look at this. You see how brown that is? And it's risen. Look at that. Woo-wee! Isn't that wonderful? So the best way to know when bread is done is actually to smack it on the bottom to see if it sounds hollow. These are hot still, obviously. Sounds pretty good. These didn't seem to rise as well as some of my other ones. Sometimes it has to do with weather. And if you hear these little tick-ticks in the background, it's because it just started to rain. How lovely are those? There's one lovely artisan bread. I'll show you what it looks like when I cut it open later, okay? There. Bread is done. Somebody showed up.
Yeah. Ooh, did you make bread? My favorite. I love that bread.
Of course, he's eating some of my other bread I made just, what, yesterday?
Yeah.
And it's apple zucchini bread, which is delicious. But it's amazing what you can find on the interweb. Anyway, I'm going to go make dinner. So I hope you really enjoyed my short video. Again, I'm not really used to this. I'm the one that's usually behind the camera. So there's my bread. And I do have a picture of it cut open later, okay? I'll show you one of my other pictures or something.